Let me be direct. If you're even thinking about going to law school after age 30 or 40 or 50, you're not behind. You're not too late. In fact, you might be in the best position of your life to do it. Today, I'm going to show you why your age is not a weakness. In fact, it is a superpower. You've got real-world experience, you've handled tough deadlines, you've managed work, family, responsibilities, and you still showed up. You know what admissions officers love to see? Maturity, focus, clarity of purpose, and you've got it all. They are not just admitting individual students. They are building an entire law school class. And that means diversity of experience is a major asset. You've lived more life, you bring a fresh lens, and whether it's in class discussions or in clinical work, you'll add value that no 22-year-old or KJD can. Now, here's a true story I want to share with you. One of my students was juggling a full-time job, law school, and parenting all at the same time. Mid-semester, a professor suddenly bumped up a deadline by a full week, total curveball. What did this student do? No panic, no drama. They just looked at their calendar, mapped out their week, and calmly emailed the professor. The result? Extension granted, zero stress. Why? Because they handled it like an adult who's been through real stuff. That's your edge. Now let's talk about the parts of the application where so-called non-traditional students start to second-guess themselves and how to handle them. For example, you might have an old GPA from decades ago. That does not matter as much as you think. Don't sweat it. Admissions officers know that you're not the same person today you were back when you were 20. They're going to look at your entire career trajectory and ask themselves, what have you done since then? Have you held any leadership roles? Have you launched projects? Have you built a career? That stuff counts. And let's say you're worrying that you can't get academic letters of recommendation because your professor's all retired. You can use professional ones instead, who are more recent, whether they're bosses, mentors, team leads, people who can speak to your work ethic, your leadership, and your communication skills. Oftentimes, these recommendations are actually stronger than the academic ones. And if you've got a longer resume, that's also totally fine. You might have 15, 20, 30 years of experience. Of course, your resume might go onto a second page. That is not a problem as long as it's all relevant. You want to focus on the highlights. Where did you make decisions? Where did you solve problems? Where were you demonstrating leadership abilities? And anything connected to the law or public service. And then, of course, there's your personal statement, which can be your secret weapon, because you've got something most applicants don't. You've got perspective. And so you want to use your essays to tell a clear story. Why are you applying to law school now? Why are you applying to law school at all? And what have you seen or lived through that brought you to this point today? This is not about justifying your decision. It's about showing that you're being intentional about your decisions. Show them this is not something you're doing simply on a whim. It is a mission you've been thinking about for quite some time. And of course, when you get to law school, will you sometimes feel out of place compared to all the 20-somethings? Sure, maybe you will. But law school is a great equalizer because everybody's overwhelmed, everybody's confused, and everybody's stressed. And that actually makes it easier to bond with others because you're all in the same situation. You're all in the trenches together. And you bring something that most applicants don't. You've worked with difficult people. You've negotiated with tough personalities, and you've made sacrifices to be here today. You may not care as much about the parties or the bar crawls, and that's totally fine. Most schools have groups specifically for non-traditional students, parents, or part-time professionals, and you're going to find your tribe. And of course, if you're worried about the LSAT, and I hear this all the time, it's been 20 years since I've taken a test, I'm scared I've lost my edge, I've never solved arguments in my life. Good news, you're not alone, and you can get there. I've personally worked with countless so-called non-traditional students, some who hadn't touched a standardized test in 30 years, and they crushed it. Why? Because they committed to a plan. They got support, and they stopped making excuses. So if any of this hit home, if you're thinking, maybe this really is possible for me, I do want to help you, you could check out the links to find out more and to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.